All right, Megan, I do want to move on to another topic here because, like I said, you have really detailed so many of these big breaking cases. And the next one that you did send to us is one that also, I think, shocked so many people. And that's the case against Danny Masterson. We just got this week, actually, his mugshot release. So go ahead, tell our viewers just the big takeaways from this entire trial in general.
Yeah, and he was convicted back in May of 2 counts of forcible rape involving 2 women back in 2003. And it was actually a second trial. He'd been on trial last fall, and the jury was not able to reach a decision. They actually deadlocked on all the charges. So I think his lawyers and especially Danny Masterson had some hope that they would be able to go into the second trial and perhaps get an acquittal. But trials usually, almost always, retrials favor the prosecutors, and the prosecutors were able to tighten their case and bring in some new especially an expert witness to talk about the Church of Scientology, which Danny Masterson has been a member of for a long time, and the victims had ties to the Church of Scientology too. So one big aspect in the case was the length of time between the crimes and the trial. We're talking about a 20-year period here, and prosecutors were able to use information and testimony about Scientology and the Church of Scientology, the secrecy that goes on in there, and kind of the fact that the church has its own real justice system. They were able to use that testimony to kind of help explain the gap between the charges in 2003 and the trial in 2023. So that was a big difference between the first and second case. And it was enough. The second trial, everything the prosecutors did was enough to persuade the jury to return 2 convictions. They did still split on a third charge, but the 2 convictions were enough to put them away for 15 years apiece. And that's what the judge did. She said 30 years to life. So that means he won't even be eligible for parole until 30 years. Though the prosecutors did say that given his age, he's 47 now, that his actual first shot at release from prison might be under a California state law regarding elderly people in prison, compassionate care release. So it's definitely looking at a couple of decades for him. And this really was the end of a long era for this case. And then for the people who've been watching the Danny Masterson allegations on the internet, on TV, through some of the activity that we've seen. It's just been a long time coming for everyone.
And Megan, I've been playing these kind of reported roundups that we have. And on the most scandalous ones that I played, it was the Danny Masterson headline and also how Mila Kunis and Ashton Kutcher kind of got dragged in to this firestorm against them after they wrote those letters of character in favor of Masterson.
Yes, and that was a big thing. That I'm doing a roundup right now of my top 10 stories on the website, and of course that was a big one at legalaffairsandtrials.com. Was we actually got the letters that Ashton and Mila wrote, and I think it was pretty clear, especially from the way they reacted to the backlash that they got, that they weren't expecting these to be made public, and they were, and there was so much attention to them and questions about their judgment about why they would do that. And of course Ashton's involvement in his role in the human trafficking organization, the sex trafficking organization that he co-founded, was such a big part of that he actually stepped down from that later. So it was a big moment for the criminal justice system's use of those letters. I think so many people who heard about those letters and read about those letters were surprised that this went on. I think some people who pay attention to the court system and follow criminal defense sentencings are aware that that's a pretty common process. But just to see them in such a high profile case, and then what the charges were, having a rape case like that, I think really shocks some people that these letters are so common, and that people write them pretty regularly.